Today, we're diving into the story of a 13th century Portuguese friar who, somehow, ended up with one of the most specific and, let's be honest, relatable jobs in history, finding things that are lost. His name is St. Anthony of Padua, and we're going to unpack exactly how he got that reputation. I mean, we've all been there, right? That absolute panic when your keys, your wallet, your phone, something you need just vanishes. It's this universal feeling of total frustration. But what if I told you that for hundreds and hundreds of years, people in that exact situation have turned to the same person for help? Yeah, for over 800 years, a whole lot of people all over the world have had a single go-to guy for this very problem, kind of like a spiritual specialist for everything that's misplaced and missing. And that man is St. Anthony of Padua. But how on earth did a medieval preacher become the patron saint of lost items? I mean, that's the central question we're unpacking here. And to really understand it, we first need to know what a patron saint even is. So, to put it simply, a patron saint is seen as a special advocate in heaven for a particular cause. You've got patron saints for everything: nations, jobs, specific struggles like illness, or, in this case, losing your keys. Now, to get to the heart of his story, we've got to go back to the beginning, back when he wasn't even known as Anthony. His life was really defined by this dramatic pivot away from a future of comfort and privilege. He was actually born Fernando Martins de Bulhões into a wealthy, noble family in Lisbon. By all accounts, he was set up for a pretty comfortable, influential life, but, well, that wasn't the path he chose. As a teenager, he joined a religious order, but then this key event happened that changed everything. In 1220, the bodies of 5 Franciscan friars who'd been martyred in Morocco were brought back to Portugal. He was so inspired by their sacrifice that he decided to leave his own comfortable order and join the Franciscans, who were much poorer and newer. And with that, he left his old name behind and became Anthony. So why that name, Anthony Anthony? It wasn't just random. It was a very deliberate choice, one that connected to a much older Christian tradition, and it's a detail that a lot of people actually miss. See, he joined this small hermitage where the chapel was dedicated to a totally different saint, St. Anthony the Great. So our Anthony, Anthony of Padua, named himself to honor this earlier figure. And this just lays it out so clearly. On the left, you've got Anthony the Great, an Egyptian hermit from way back in the 3rd and 4th centuries. He's known as the father of monasticism. And on the right, our guy, Anthony of Padua, a Portuguese Franciscan from the 13th century. 2 completely different men, separated by almost 1,000 years, but, forever linked by that name. Okay, let's see how this story builds. So after becoming a Franciscan, Anthony was known for being pretty quiet, studious, and often in poor health. Nobody really saw him as a public figure. But one single, unexpected event would completely change the course of his life and reveal this incredible hidden talent. The story goes that in 1222, at this really important church event, there was a major mix-up. Both the Dominicans and the Franciscans thought the other group was supposed to provide the preacher. So in a total panic, the leader turns to the quiet, sickly Anthony and tells him to just get up and speak. Anthony objected, of course, but he was ordered to do it. And what happened next? He stood up and delivered this impromptu sermon that was so brilliant, so filled with knowledge and passion, that everyone was just stunned. A star was born right there on the spot. This newfound fame as a preacher really set the stage for his legacy. But it's a very specific story from this period that finally answers our original question. Why do people pray to him when they lose something? It all comes down to a book, but not just any book. This one was incredibly important to him, both personally and professionally. The book was his Psalter, which is a book of Psalms. But more than that, it was filled with his own personal notes, his comments for teaching the other friars. You have to remember, in the 13th century, every single book was a precious, hand-copied work of art. For a Franciscan friar who'd taken a vow of poverty, it was basically irreplaceable. So the story is that a young friar who was in the process of leaving the order stole this precious book. Anthony was devastated and just prayed and prayed for its return. Well, soon after, the thief was reportedly so moved by some kind of spiritual experience, or maybe just a really guilty conscience, that he not only returned the Psalter, but he also came back to the Franciscan order. And that single event became the bedrock of his reputation as the finder of lost things. But here's what's really interesting. His job description, so to speak, didn't stop there. Over the centuries, his patronage expanded in some really surprising ways. Yeah, his portfolio grew to cover this huge range of human needs. People invoke him for finding lost souls, for protecting travelers, for animals, the poor, and even for finding a spouse or for help with a pregnancy. So, beyond all the legends, why is he still considered such a major figure? Well, his life was short, but his impact was so profound that the church's recognition was immediate, and it's been incredibly long-lasting. After years of just tirelessly preaching and teaching all across Italy and France, Anthony's poor health finally caught up with him. He died in 1231 at only 35 years old. And this is where the story becomes truly remarkable. He was so beloved, and the stories of his miracles were so widespread that the process to officially recognize him as a saint was put on an unprecedented fast track. Pope Gregory IX declared him a saint in less than 1 year. To this day, it's still one of the fastest canonizations in the entire history of the Catholic Church. I mean, that's a testament to the incredible impact he had on the people of his time. And his legacy didn't even stop there. Centuries later, in 1946, he was given one of the Church's highest honors, Doctor of the Church. This title recognized him not just as a miracle worker, but as one of its most profound and important theological teachers, a person whose writings still offer spiritual guidance today. So ultimately, the story of St. Anthony is about so much more than a lost book. It's the story of a man who gave up a life of wealth for poverty and traded silence for a life of public preaching. It really leaves us with a question, doesn't it? Beyond helping us find our keys, what can we learn today from a life that was defined by such radical transformation and such an unexpected purpose?